Chapter 12. Common Research Mistakes. Having little, incorrect, flawed, or zero evidence can undo evidence-based decision-making. Poor evidence can drag us in the wrong direction, give us false confidence, and create risk and waste. The most common research mistakes are skipping research, skimping on it, or doing it poorly. Quote, "If there's time and money to run a business, there's time and money to become informed. You wouldn't order takeout without doing research. Would you put your hand in a door, they hand you a bag, and that's dinner? You'd say, no, I want to read reviews. I want to talk to people. I'm investing $50 in takeout. But we're doing a multi-million-dollar project, and it's like, ugh, we have to do research. That's ridiculous." Erica Hall. 2 quotes combined and edited for brevity. Web link, see xcc.to/A187. Our strategies and initiatives derive from, or are at least influenced by, our business and customer intelligence. Business and customer intelligence derive from qualitative and quantitative research data. Therefore, one of the earliest weaknesses in our critical path is the quality of our research. Evidence. It's easy to say that we want evidence-based decision-making, design, or strategies. But which evidence should be included or excluded? Is all data valid? Answering these questions requires critical thinking and self-awareness. We must look closely at our techniques, methods, and analysis. Here are some critical thinking questions that can help us determine whether we should use a particular piece of qualitative or quantitative data. 1. Do we know that the data was manipulated? We or someone else might have manipulated the study or its results to prove or disprove a certain point. Data manipulation can range from dishonest to unethical. If we know that our data is dishonest or compromised, don't use it as evidence. 2. Was the data generated without following best practices? If our qualitative or quantitative study was with too few people, or if our experiment was run with too short of a time period, this might not be good evidence. 3. Is it recent and actionable? Do we have current qualitative data that helps us understand who, what, where, when, why, and how? Can we create strategies and initiatives that guide our direction from this evidence? Do we look at the data and wonder, what do we do about that? 4. Is our knowledge complete? Teams sometimes run a study and then realize there's still a lot they don't know. Rather than taking the time to collect proper evidence and conduct a follow-up study, they sometimes go with what they have and augment it with guesses and assumptions. It's best to hold off on conclusions or actions until we have a complete set of data that answers our questions and replaces assumptions with knowledge. 5. Would it stand up in court? We are probably not going to court with this data, but we can use this metaphor. Would a highly qualified research expert say that we have factual and scientific data? End of list. Guesses and assumptions. Some frameworks and models suggest that we can move forward with guesses and assumptions with or without validation. The assumption about assumptions is that using them will save time. You'll often hear that you will figure out later if guesses or assumptions were wrong. This assumes that months later, when the outcomes of our project are measured, we will know which guess was incorrect or which conclusion we drew ended up invalid. This speed over quality approach imagines that we won't need root cause analysis or to investigate where we went wrong. We will just know, and then we can fix that mistake. Work from assumptions approaches also downplay the ripple effect of guesses and assumptions. One example would be personas, which document our target audience archetypes. Personas are an artifact of qualitative research. We can detail target audience behaviors and needs because we studied them. Cross-functional teams can use personas to keep different customer types in mind as we strategize, prioritize, design, and build. The common mistake here is guessed at or made up personas, often called proto-personas. Rather than researching first, we create proto-personas from what we think we know about customer groups. Teams sometimes create a survey or short research project to validate the proto-personas. We also run into problems when the validation study is specifically designed to validate our work as correct. If research is important, why didn't we research first? Researching first takes less time than guessing first, researching to see if you were right, figuring out where assumptions were incorrect, and fixing mistakes. Please do not treat as fact guesses, assumptions, unanswered questions, or hypotheses, even if validated by a research study designed to validate them. True concept validation goes way beyond what we often use: waiting lists, fake doors, surveys, and asking some people if they like our idea. Time and budget spent on validating assumptions could have been spent on the generative qualitative research that would have better informed cross-functional teams and multiple projects. We will find PSE market fit by understanding the behaviors of those in our target markets and then building the PSE that match behaviors and needs. Why start with assumptions? Start with research, evidence, and knowledge to avoid the wasted time and effort often invested into assumption lists, workshops, validation, and overconfidence. Guesses and assumptions should not be the foundations of strategies, initiatives, or projects. They are risks we should document. They should inspire us to create generative qualitative research projects that will dispel myths, clear up confusion, and replace guesses and assumptions with facts. Quote, "Sign that you're developing software using waterfall. Assumptions are not risks to be evaluated urgently, but instead are treated as truths waiting to be disproved." End quote. Paul Weekly. If we paid close attention to the costs and time associated with PSE based on cycles of guesses or assumptions, plus the costs and time of failures, root cause analysis, and rework, we should find that it's faster and cheaper to wait for knowledge and work from it than to run with guesses and assumptions. Try it. Validated and failed. Think about the ideas that startups and more established companies say they validated. I remember the startup who told me how they validated that surfers need an app to coordinate going surfing. They talked to some surfers who thought a special app just for coordinating going surfing sounded good. You can Google failed startup ideas and failed Kickstarters for more. How many of these validated ideas found no PSE market fit? How many pivoted? How many failed? How many invented use cases that didn't really exist? Inventing use cases. Finding or inventing a use case doesn't mean that we are working from good data or that anybody will utilize the feature as we imagine. We can create a use case for just about anything. Bad use case advice sounds like, just imagine someone in a realistic scenario using your PSE to accomplish their goal. Great PSE is mission critical to our company and should not be based on guesses or imagination. Even with hindsight, we could imagine use cases for New Coke, Crystal Pepsi, Microsoft's Zune MP3 player, BlackBerry's OS, McDonald's Arch Deluxe Burger, and other textbook PSE failures. They all had use cases and seemed like good ideas, but they didn't have PSE market fit. Sidebar: Understanding target customers' use cases. I use a tractive GPS tracker on Olivia, the dog who loves to roam around the countryside. I can track her, which is especially great when our other dogs escape and Olivia joins in. We were over the moon when Tractive created a product with two pieces that fit together. One was the body of the tracker and one was the battery. This meant that we could easily keep one battery charging and swap them out. We immediately upgraded Olivia's hardware to this version and bought the extended life spare battery that lasts days. We were disappointed that Tractive's new 2022 version was one piece without a separate battery. This shows that the company mainly envisions one use case. My pet is safely home at night, and I can take the tracker off them and charge it up. However, we have a different use case. We have 5 dogs. 4 live outside and love to escape at all hours, mainly between midnight and 3 a.m. We want Olivia's daughter, Diana, to start wearing Tractive because Diana orchestrates the escapes. But if she's an escape artist 24/7 and lives outdoors, when can we take off the tracker to charge it? We would need a tracker in 2 pieces so we can swap out Diana's battery as it runs low. Tractive might assume that all or nearly all of their customers can charge the tracker at night. Have they researched with current and target customers to learn more about who they are tracking, why, and where that pet lives? Do they understand the spectrum of use cases for their product? Decisions like only offering one version of your PSE can facilitate customers leaving or never choosing you in the first place because your PSE don't fit their use cases. End of sidebar. Surveys. CX quantitative researchers and marketing use surveys quite often. CX qualitative researchers use surveys less frequently, mainly to collect and screen potential study participants. Surveys are often not a great way to grow our customer intelligence and deeply understand customers' needs and tasks. Taking surveys has made you familiar with common survey flaws. You've seen questions that didn't make sense and questions that seemed to answer themselves. You may have sensed that the people who wrote the survey were fishing for one particular answer. Figure 21. Screenshot of a poll asking if you are sick and tired of seeing coyotes killing your pets and potentially your children, yes or no. Some say this survey was real, and some say it was a parody. But we have all seen survey and poll questions that were fishing for a particular answer. Figure 22. Miles C. Thomas shared this photo of a survey he received after a hotel stay. Each parameter's rating is a choice of excellent, very good, or satisfactory. There are no choices lower than satisfactory. Some surveys use leading wording to tell you what your answer should be. Figure 23. Real survey about 2022 Georgia politics. The survey question states, quote, Raphael Warnock believes America is a bad country full of racist people. He wants to divide us. Herschel Walker believes America is a great country full of generous people. He wants to bring us together. After reading this, would you vote for Raphael Warnock, Democrat, or Herschel Walker, Republican, for U.S. Senate? End quote. My question is, can you tell which candidate's team wrote the survey? You've also seen surveys where you felt that none of the answers matched your opinions, or the answers you wanted to pick weren't available choices. Figure 24. Screenshot of a survey question asking if you were able to customize the look and feel of your online course, what parts of the course you would like to customize. Your choices are the course directory, the course homepage, the lecture view page, or I don't know what any of these course pages are. There is no choice for, I don't want to customize any of these, or it's hard for me to answer this without seeing what you are talking about. While some try to answer the survey honestly, many survey takers either give up on the survey or answer the questions the way the survey seems to want them to. This can lead to flawed, if not invalid, results. After a trip with MSC Cruises, I received a survey asking on a scale of 1 to 10 how satisfied I was with each of 12 elements of a cruise. I gave various scores, including a low score for the onboard experience. I finished the open comments section with a fact. I returned home from an MSC cruise and immediately booked my next cruise on Norwegian. Ouch! What went wrong for me? Can we tell from the survey? Will anybody read that comment? Will the comment be analyzed by a bot who sees booked my next cruise and thinks this is positive? Will the bot see a competitor's name and think this is a favorable comparison? Will we average up some scores and say we're doing well enough? The survey is unlikely to be actionable unless we follow it up with qualitative research with former cruisers to learn what can be improved. Surveys also suffer from the flaws of self-reporting. From pride to rose-colored glasses to lack of self-awareness and other reasons, people sometimes do not accurately report what they do or even their opinions. Flawed results used to inform strategies, decisions, or PSE are hazardous. Additionally, if data and analytics don't make your next steps or actions clear, it's a hint that you need qualitative research to give numbers context and bring them to life. In a LinkedIn post, David Hamill, Hamill, told the story of a survey run at a former workplace, edited for brevity. Weblink cxcc.to/A192. Quote, one company I worked with was planning a new feature which asked their users to provide more information about themselves in a process. It was an optional step, and there was some internal dispute about whether or not many users would opt to do it. One team decided to survey their users and ask if they would be willing to provide this extra information about themselves. Over 80% of respondents said they would. When the feature was released, less than 0.4% of users actually provided the extra information. End quote. We've looked at poor survey examples and some disadvantages, but surveys aren't always disasters. They can be valid, meaningful, and actionable. But like any other research method, planning, execution, and analysis require time and expertise. Sidebar. Stepping stone. Surveys. Stakeholders love how surveys quickly give us tangible numerical data. But what did we learn from the survey, and what do we still not know? After a survey, we are likely to still have unanswered questions or lack details, especially around why we received certain answers. This is our opportunity to raise the need for a qualitative study to answer those questions and dive into why. Therefore, while planning surveys, plan a follow-up qualitative research study to fill in the customer intelligence gaps. End of sidebar. Some people suggest that you need a statistically significant quantitative study, such as a survey, to validate the results of a qualitative study, such as interviews. This is not necessary for two key reasons. 1. A thoroughly planned qualitative research study with the correct number of well-recruited participants is valid. It does not need further validation. 2. Surveys are extremely easy to manipulate. Questions might be biased, leading, clearly fishing for one particular answer, or locking you into a false choice. People hoping to validate or invalidate previous research, an idea, or a hypothesis can twist the survey results to say whatever they want. End of list. Therefore, we should not use an easily distorted method to validate or invalidate anything. Focus groups. Focus groups, a type of generative qualitative research, are moderated discussions about a topic or your PSE. As these are done with multiple people in a group setting, you can collect a lot of opinions from the participants in a short time. But focus groups have a variety of concerns and drawbacks, including 1. Groupthink. People are often more comfortable with agreement and consensus. They might not speak up if they have a different opinion or perspective. 2. Fear of judgment. Sometimes people are not honest or forthcoming on the assumption that others in the group are judging them. 3. Dominant voice. One powerful personality in the room can sway the conversation or make more introverted or shy people stay quiet. Sometimes this pseudo-leader works to convince others of their opinion, which further flaws the results. 4. Bad questions. We shouldn't ask a group of people how much they like a concept, how might they use it in the future, they can't predict that, or how their colleagues might use it. They really can't predict that. We shouldn't ask people sales questions like, would you pay for this? They might not control the budget. Would you pay more if we added a particular feature, another future prediction, etc.? 5. Knowledge gap. Are we asking people about a topic they don't know much about? Are we assuming they have knowledge or experience that they don't? 6. Wrong method for task performance studies. We would not ask people in a focus group to perform a task together if they are strangers and would not normally perform this task together. We would not ask participants to perform a task one at a time if others were watching. Spectators will then be biased by how an earlier participant did something. They gain knowledge about the topic or PSE, which changes their perspectives. 7. What people say or predict about themselves often doesn't match what they do. Thanks to pride, rose-colored glasses, lack of self-awareness, and in some cases, purposeful deception. End of list. CX or UX research versus market research. According to sba.gov, weblink cxcc.to/A137, market research addresses the following. 1. Demand. Is there a desire for your product or service? Surveys or interviews might ask people if they are interested in your idea or how likely they might be to purchase a described product or service. 2. Market size. How many people would be interested in your offering? This is often a statistic representing the total possible population of buyers. For example, our product is for pets, our target audience is families in America who own pets, and there are 90.5 million American families with at least one pet. 3. Economic indicators. What are your target audience's income ranges and employment rate? Perhaps we are only looking for American pet owners on a tight budget who make under $50,000 per year. 4. Location. Where do your customers live and where can your business reach? Further narrowing the target audience, we might want pet owners making under $50,000 per year and living in or near the 20 largest cities in the USA. 5. Market saturation. How many similar options are already available to consumers? This is an analysis of competitors. 6. Pricing. What do potential customers pay for these alternatives? What might people be willing to pay for your PSE? End of list. Market research is often about predicting what people will do or what they will respond to in the future. We use these predictions to adjust our marketing, advertising, price, and other elements. What imagery should we use so they associate joy with our yogurt? How many people said they would pay for this idea our company has? Market research often fuels predictions. We might estimate that it will take us 6 months to attract 10,000 users paying $10 monthly. We might estimate that 6 months later, we will retain 80% of that 10,000. Do we ever go back and check how often our predictions are correct? How long did it take us to get to 10,000 users paying $10 per month? 6 months later, what percent stayed with us? Checking our predictions versus reality might lead to tough but important conversations about our predictions and the market research feeding them. CX research stays away from predictions, hypothetical purchases, and whether people claim to like a described idea. CX research is typically an investigation into people and their tasks, behaviors, perspectives, needs, and decisions. CX and market research are often very different animals, but some companies prefer market research and don't invest in CX research for the following reasons. 1. They believe it is a duplication of efforts. If the differences between CX research and market research are not understood, we might imagine that we only need one of them. 2. Confirmation bias. Market research and CX research sometimes return opposite results. Market research might tell us we have a good idea people want, while CX research might indicate that our idea is not the right match for our target audiences. Only one of these can be true. Thanks to confirmation bias, we would rather hear the former. That's not universal. Some market research brings us the cold, unvarnished truth we need to hear. But, too often, our market research validates what we were hoping to validate, making it more attractive than CX research. 3. Market researchers say they do CX or user research. If that is an inaccurate statement, or that research is not being done well, remember our earlier standards for high-quality research. We are missing out on a lot of important evidence gathering and customer intelligence. 4. Executing CX research well requires specialists you might not want to hire and time and budget you might not want to invest. You might have staff who can do market research quickly, prioritizing speed over other factors. 5. Our PSE guesses will be good enough. If 78% of survey respondents want a better hotel check-in experience, what should we design to make that check-in better? Do we know what better means from our customers' perspectives, or are we guessing or assuming what they would prefer? If the market research can't inform these decisions or our design, we might unfortunately rely on PSE guesses that won't be good enough. 6. 500 people responded to a survey sounds more impressive than we observed 24 people. The assumption is that the method that involved the most people wins, which is not necessarily true. End of list. You can continue using the market research that delivers accurate and actionable business and customer intelligence. Transforming who does your research and how the research is done are fundamental shifts that companies interested in customer centricity will need to make. Sidebar: we've all been in that meeting. Have you ever been in a meeting where people were surprised or confused that the PSE we built in response to our market research was a failure? People told us they wanted this thing, we built it, and it doesn't seem to be needed, liked, or utilized. We asked in a survey if they wanted more customization, and 72% said yes. We gave them more customization, and they aren't using it. Meeting attendees are typically shocked and unsure of how this happened. A common assumption is that our customers must have lied to us. The blame should be on the quality of our research. We should not imagine that some or all of our customers are liars. We should take a second look at the research methods we used and the questions we asked. If this is a survey, we must also look at the answer choices. End of sidebar. Do customers lie to us? When we run focus groups, surveys, or interviews asking people if they like our idea or would buy something like it, we might hear a lot of yes. Sure, I'd buy that. Yes, I'd use it. Of course my colleagues would like something like that. But what are people saying yes to if they can't try a realistic prototype or live version of this feature right now? Everybody imagines something that would work fantastically well for them, and they report liking the idea or being sure they would use it. We can't see into their heads. They are all imagining that when we release this feature, it'll be like what they imagined, which means there is a high probability of disappointment. Everybody imagines different executions of different ideas. This does not mean users should sketch their solutions. People are usually poor at fully understanding their problems, let alone designing the best solutions. It's up to excellent research to learn their tasks, needs, preferences, and context. We can use that knowledge to design what works best across target audiences, which might be an even better concept than what each person imagined. Try it. Did we imagine the same features? Would you like your project management software to improve collaboration features? This is the type of question we might ask in a focus group, survey, or interview. Positive answers help us greenlight a project we are considering. But when you hear improved collaboration in project management software, which features or functions do you imagine? I imagine a system that lets me bring in guests and light collaborators for free. A system that lets me play out different project paths and get feedback from collaborators. A system that facilitates multiple people voting in a prioritization matrix and calculating results. Did we imagine similar things? If the project management software company built my ideas but not yours, would you feel like they met your needs or expectations? Despite telling a researcher you wanted collaboration features, might you end up not using the ones you get? Ask customers what they want. A common mistake is to assume that a feature suggestion coming from a customer is a mandate. Isn't it customer-centric to have the public post ideas and vote them up? Can we find a few customers and ask them what they want or what our PSE are missing? Can we consider that user research because we might learn what people want? Users don't always understand their problems and rarely are the best architects of their own solutions, especially since they might stay in the box of what they imagine is feasible or possible. When teams review feature requests and suggestions, they tend to do the ones they wanted to do anyway and ignore the ones that we previously marked lower priority. This is our confirmation bias, our tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports our prior beliefs or values. I recommend against any questions that expect the user to be the architect of their own solutions. Sidebar: can this customer solve her own problem? I was once near the gate for my flight when the agent announced that all carry-on bags must be gate-checked. A woman went to the agent's desk with her large purse and a wheeled bag. The agent hastily handed her a gate-check ticket and turned her attention to someone else. I watched the woman attach the gate-check ticket to her purse, which she was not going to gate-check. When she reached the end of the jet bridge, She saw all the wheeled bags and left hers without the gate check barcode. After the flight landed, the announcement told us to wait in the jet bridge to pick up our gate-checked bags. This woman didn't stop. I later saw her at baggage claim without her gate-checked wheeled bag. She might have been waiting for it to arrive on the baggage carousel. I have no idea how she and her gate-checked bag were reunited or how long that took. What was this customer's knowledge gap? She didn't understand gate checking and it wasn't intuitive. She didn't understand what to do with the barcode ticket, what to do with her bags, or how to get them later. She might have been a new flyer, not fluent in the language the gate agent spoke, or had never gate checked a bag before and was new to the process. But she didn't know that she didn't know. She confidently put the gate check barcode on her purse and carried on with boarding the flight. What might this customer request if she were leaving us suggestions? Given that it probably took her a long time to get her carry-on bag, she thinks the airline is slow. She thinks someone tried to steal her bag. She wants our airline to improve the baggage retrieval process. Since she didn't know she accomplished the gate-checking task incorrectly, she is unlikely to know how to make gate-checking better. What opportunity might we miss if we take her suggestions at face value and assume this is what our customers want? The real opportunity here is around the knowledge gap. While our airline might have room for improvement in baggage handling, we might miss that this problem was a lack of understanding of gate-checking procedures. We might have all the empathy in the world for this customer, but if we don't correctly identify her problem, or we leave it to her to correctly guess her problem and solution, we might never truly solve her problem. End of sidebar. Product discovery research mistakes. Teams in discovery mode typically wonder who would want our idea. They hope to validate that we're going in the right direction. But discovery is not about proving ourselves right and our ideas valid. Discovery must be a quality-focused problem-finding adventure that sets our PSE and customers up for success. Good generative qualitative research reduces discovery project effort and risk by helping us deeply understand our target audiences, their needs, and behaviors. This allows us to define problems thoroughly so that we can then work on solving those problems. Discovery isn't who might want the thing we want to build. It's what should we build for the people we want to attract and retain. Reducing or skipping generative research sounds fast, but it can add steps later that ultimately make our process slower. Compare the following. Conduct generative qualitative research first. Unmet needs, insights, and pain points are revealed and prioritized. We understand who our customers are and the problems they need solved. We catalog their needs and create short and long-term PSE strategies based on this knowledge. Research-informed and evidence-based solutions ensure that we solve the right problems and deliver high quality and value. Designs go through rounds of testing and improvement before engineering writes code or anything goes to the public, reducing risk and embarrassment. Versus brainstorm ideas first. We wonder which ideas are good, who might want or pay for these features, and which experiments will tell us which ideas might create business and hopefully customer success. We build our favorite ideas for experimentation. Hopefully we designed these experiments well and are watching the right metrics for an appropriate period of time. Weeks later, our results are in, and we have a sense of which experiments were successful, though we might not know why. Having validated our earlier solution concepts, we stick with these ideas and design them further. If our experiments demonstrated that our ideas have little or no potential for success, We circle back and brainstorm new ideas. We may have wasted time and customer goodwill while only being slightly smarter about the best PSE direction. We might be doing a mediocre job solving the wrong problem. If the experiments testing our ideas were flawed, we might accidentally validate a poor idea, increasing the probability of risks and mistakes. How much time do cycles of guessing and experiments take versus investing in early generative research that would set us up with knowledge and reliable data? What most teams call discovery isn't really discovery, especially where it doesn't start with discovering more about target audiences, their tasks, and their unmet needs. Some teams that claim they want to get away from the feature factory add research so that they can build what customers want. Feature factories start with ideas, possible solutions, or guesses and assumptions about target audiences. A feature factory's discovery research often aims to find if anybody likes the idea we already have. Accidentally or on purpose, teams sometimes design the study that confirms the potential market for the idea. Any research with goals like find who wants our idea or check if customers like this feature we're thinking of building is highly likely to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We will find what we're looking for and greenlight our projects. These types of discovery research goals show that we're using evaluative research. Our idea is a sketch or a prototype, and we want to know if people like it. In user-centered design, evaluative research is toward the end of the process. Discovery-related research should be at the beginning. Answer open questions and replace guesses and assumptions with knowledge and data as early in the process as possible. Some trainers demand that product discovery start with generative qualitative research that guides us to deeply understand the underlying user need. They recommend observational research so we understand what people do now, their workflows, and where those go well or poorly. I agree with these recommendations. A discovery process should discover everything we can about target customers and their unmet needs, tasks, and the contexts in which they might use our PSE. Yet, despite how often thorough generative research is recommended or required, we rarely allocate the budget or time for this. We listen to the voices calling for speed over quality in our research and discovery. Our discovery efforts are too often a validation process disguised as discovery. We want to hear that our ideas are good and likely to be marketable to our audiences. Product discovery should be a solution-agnostic investigation. Put aside the ideas or hypotheses you have and work with CX researchers so that the team can have the knowledge and evidence that will drive smarter decisions. The required time and money are worthwhile investments that more than pay for themselves with later customer satisfaction and loyalty. Hypothesis first? You will often hear that we need to form a hypothesis and then test or validate our assumptions. This sounds right and appears to be from the scientific method, but in our speed-focused world, we forgot that forming a hypothesis, testing it, and drawing conclusions are steps 3, 4, and 5 of the scientific method. Step 1 is observe, which utilizes observational and qualitative research methods. This is our full generative research process: planning, recruiting, execution, analysis, and synthesis. Now we have our solid evidence. Step 2 is question, which is our problem definition and framing. Step 3 of the scientific method is forming the hypothesis, which is our informed best guess at the solution. If the hypothesis is not based on reliable and high-quality evidence and research data, then our hypothesis could be risky and wasteful. Assumptions that can be disproven by existing current research data should be thrown out. Do not waste time experimenting or trying to validate these when we already have the answer. Our hypothesis wouldn't just be an idea, a sticky note, or an entry on a canvas or template. We would have to move through the user-centered design process so that we have something to test. This includes designs, prototypes, and customer experience improvements, all based on our earlier research and clear problem definitions. A hypothesis is literally a supposition, which means that we don't know if it's a good solution or not. Step 4 includes designing and conducting the experiment that will test if it's an excellent solution. This is our evaluative research. Note that in most cases, we do not need to release something live to the public to test our hypothesis. We can work from rapid prototypes and early concept models so that we are not burning engineering's time or the public's trust on a possible solution with unknown value. Step 5 analyzes test data and draws conclusions. Was our hypothesis correct, partially or wholly? Our testing should reveal room for improvement, which circles us back to step 3 of the scientific method. The experiment might show that our problem needs to be redefined, circling us back to step 2. This leads us to a new solution hypothesis, fresh or updated designs, and another round of testing. Step 6 is to report on what you found, sharing the knowledge and details with others. Start with a hypothesis can sound agile or lean, but is misguided and introduces risk. Don't skip the early generative, exploratory, and discovery research that inform our potential solutions. Guesses and assumptions based on minimal, flawed, or outdated information could be called a hypothesis, but should be avoided. Hypothesis-first methods often put us in a single solution box before we have fully understood problems from our customers' perspectives. Those who are familiar with user-centered design or human-centered design will notice the similarity between them and the scientific method. CX practitioners are scientific about problem finding and solving. Ask the SMEs. A common mistake is to believe that we can skimp on or skip research because we can ask a subject matter expert, SME, for their opinion. The assumption is that someone with extensive domain knowledge would know the right direction and make the best decision. Critical thinking requires us to ask if that person can really speak for all possible users. Is this person still an active consumer, or might their knowledge be outdated? Do they share current perspectives of our varied target audiences? Can they speak for everybody? While asking one person what they think is faster and cheaper than running a research study with a representative slice of our target audiences, we must estimate and document the risk. An SME can be a good person to help us gather domain knowledge more quickly, but they are not a stand-in or replacement for fresh research with our target audiences. What would we like the research to say? Qualitative and quantitative research can be manipulated. To avoid this, specialists must have the appropriate time, budget, and access to participants. They must have the freedom to do their best work and report on it honestly. Some professional researchers are asked to provide an editable version of their report so that a teammate, manager, or other stakeholder can make changes. This should be seen as dishonest and possibly unethical. It should run against our values and not even be an option. Manipulated data might make a stakeholder happy, but What are the consequences and risks of utilizing incorrect or manipulated data in our projects? If we want to validate something, we can design the study that will validate it. To illustrate this point, when I do live training, I like to walk up to someone seated at the front of the room. I ask them if they like my shirt. I wear a custom rugby shirt with a Delta CX logo. The person thinks for a second and says, yes. I then ask, would you like one like this? Most say, yes. Well, I have just validated that they like my shirt and would like one like it. But I know that's not true, so I ask, do you really? Then they say, no. The audience laughs, the tension is cut, and we talk about research mistakes when we ask the wrong questions, the wrong people, or use the wrong methods. I have seen companies specifically hire the least experienced researchers they can find and ask them to do a study that proves the idea or potential solution is a good one. Researchers in their first job don't want to be fired, so they do what they are told. And amazingly, we prove that our concept is good and people like it. Researchers at all levels might receive this request, but a more experienced researcher is likely to push back, be solution agnostic, and request, if not demand, unbiased research.